All right, as you can see, I've put the reverse input drum on top of my input drum. So this assembly is ready to go in. We'll put the low and reverse piston in, and we'll start building the tranny. All right, just like all of them, you need just a little bit of lube. You don't need a lot. All three surfaces. Same with this. All three surfaces. And if you look, there's a knob. There's a knob right down there that has to be lined up. So you can see how that goes right there. And believe it or not, this is factory. Tap this in place. Slowly back and forth. You don't want to hit it too hard. I have broken the bottom of the piston out before putting these in. I was younger, first starting out, but it does happen. Okay, after the piston's in, get your spring. Put your spring on top. Just like so. Get your tool, spring, compressor, and carefully compress the spring all the way down. I do have a long screwdriver to help me make sure it goes down nice and easy. See it move? That's where the snap ring goes. Okay, now we're down past the snap ring. Now the easiest way I've found to put these in is with a screwdriver. A lot of people still use the snap ring pliers. This is the way I do it. I just think it's easier. I hold it in place. And then slowly work it around. Push it down. There, snap ring's in place. We'll take that out. Now we're ready to put it together. Hopefully you can see off to the side here. I think you can. So you can see what I'm doing. We have our bearings. A little bit of green glue on it, like this, and always put a little ATF on it. Any place where it's going to ride on your bearing or your bushing that you just installed. Put that in. Put that in. your rear planted in. Now we want to put your low and reverse clutches in. I usually stack these to make it easier for me. There's a notch which goes right in this area. There's a wavy plate on the bottom, and then clutch fiber all the way up. These clutches, or the steels, will only fit in one direction. Put the notch in the same hole every time. All right, got that in. Now we want to put our plate on it with our low and reverse sprag or roller clutch in it. This will only go in one way. We have what's called an anti-rattle spring. It keeps this thing from making noise. I just put just a little dab to hold this in place and install. Yeah, that was nice. And yeah, install this just like so. Now when you put your snap ring in, you can't have the snap ring over the top of your anti-rattle clip. So what you do is you start right next to it, and you put it just right there. And you put it all the way around so it's not over the top of this. If you put it over the top of this, I've seen these come out. And you have no reverse and no manual first. Well, you'll have manual first, but it won't hold as well. Here's a 4-tang washer right on top of your inner race. You have your inner sun gear for the rear planet. Okay, now before you put your sun shell in, what we want to do is a little bit of ATF. Put our sun shell in. Thrust washer. Again. A little ATF. Okay, see how this doesn't stay in there right? So what I do is I put a little bit of stuff on that, set it right on that so it holds it. Again, there's another bushing, a little bit more ATF on your forward planet. Now, next we're going to install the output shaft, which comes with a little snap ring. Now, most people I see have to have somebody hold it for them. Hold the output shaft so they can install this. I'm going to show you the way that I do it, just like the rear, just like the snap ring for the low and reverse piston. I use a screwdriver. This bushing is the one that's running on there, or this area is where that bushing is. What I do is I put the output shaft like this. Put the snap ring in the proper way. There is an up and a down on it. And just take a screwdriver. Watch it fight me now. See? You know, when I'm at work, it just falls right in. Okay, just like that. A little easier to do it that way. Now, sometimes there's a sun shell or a sun gear that goes right here. On some models, it is not encapsulated in the drum. This one it is. It's stuck on the forward sprag, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll lube it up. If you have the old style, you would put your sun gear in now. Again, lube. Set your drum assembly in. Sometimes my hands just can't hang on to it very well. And wiggle it down until you get it all the way seated. Way to tell, this drum is lower than where the pump sits, and the inner drum goes up and down. Okay, so we're all the way down. Now, we want to put our band in now. This is our 2/4 band, second gear and fourth gear. Slide it in just like that. Sometimes you have to talk to it a little bit. Now what we need to do is install band anchor. And get a hook tool and install the band anchor. While you've got it here, we want to put the servo in the side so we can check the band clearance. Same thing, you want a little bit of lube, you don't need a whole bunch. Lube up the seals. put them in dry, they will rip. Okay. Just put this in. Easiest way to put these on is hammer screwdriver. Get your retaining ring ready. Hold it with the screwdriver. Get the clip in and work it around. Make sure it's seated. Now what we want to do is check the clearance. Make sure the band got proper clearance. Watch the pin, it should have a 1/16 of an inch clearance. And that's where we are, or I mean 1/8 of an inch. So we're good. They do make a tool you can put on the outside of here to check it. It's very expensive, and this is a lot easier to do it that way. All right, now we want to put our pump in. Take our sizers off. Put a little bit of lube around the outside for the O-ring. I might put a couple little dabs to hold the gasket in place. Same with pump, put the O-ring on it. Oh, and you know what we didn't do first? That I completely forgot. Put the seal in for the filter. I usually do this before, and I just noticed that I didn't have it in there. So you want to put your seal in for your filter. I usually do that when I'm putting the valves in, but I forgot. Put a little bit of lube on everything. That's where your torque converter clutch solenoid goes, and that's the filter. A little bit of lube on your O-ring all the way around. Don't need a lot. Set your gasket in place. Okay, just like anything else, you want to put lube or ATF over everything. Line up your pump and set it down. When you're doing your pump, you need to take your bolts, put new O-rings on them. After you get 2 on it, what you'll need to do, you kind of wiggle it back and forth and start the bolts by hand. And get all your bolts with the thruster with the O-rings on them, get them all started by hand before you take the pump down. Because it's harder to move when you've got the pump all the way seated. Alright, now you've got these in, they're all easy to turn. One thing you never do is you never use a gun on this and run these down. You never tighten this up with a gun. Once you've got those there, take a dead blow, lightly tap it, all the way around. So you're down all the way. Then again, you'll want to take your speed handle, and again, take these down as if you were tightening on a tire. It's a nice star pattern all the way around. Once they're down like that, again, torque wrench, again, 18 foot-pounds, and tighten them the same way. People put these on with guns, and they always put them on too tight, which causes the pump to warp, causes damage. Hopefully you can hear it click. Don't know, the camera I'm using is not that good for sound. Get back and double check. All right. Now we want to check the end play, make sure we got enough, the proper end play on this. I'll show you how to do that. Want to make sure, first off, it's not bound up and it turns nice and easy, so we're good there. I'll get it all set up and show you how to check the end clearance. All right, this is one system. There's many different ways you can do this. Got the dial indicator on the end of my input drum. You want to make sure you go down all the way and zero it. Hopefully you can see the needle. And we want to check the in play and check it with specs. Do it for the input one and then do it for the output. Check your specs on both of them. They should be pretty close. If you didn't have to change any hard parts in there, if you change hard parts, you really need to check it, and you might have to take it back apart to put some different shims in and different spacers, but that's the way to properly check that. All right, got the training roll on its back now. I put the O-ring on the input shaft, the little O-ring down here. What we're going to do is put the seal on the manual valve, or the manual linkage. You buy the tool to remove it. It comes with an installer. Put it on there and tap it down. Now your seal's in there. All right, about the only thing you can't ever use a gun on here is to put the bell housing on the front and the part call container. So I put that down, the 2 bolts. This is the only thing I use a gun on, besides the bell housing. And that's it. Everything else is done by hand. Excuse me. What I want to do now is let's raise this up a little bit. Do is put the all the accumulators together. Just like before, everything just a little bit of lube. You don't need a lot. Put a little bit on there for the wiring to go through. Accumulator pistons. A lot of people don't like these, and they replace them with the billet pistons. It's up to you, whatever you want. I don't see a need to replace them. They do crack and break, so check for cracks around where the pin goes. Install your new seals on it. Okay. Pin. That in the valve body. Hopefully you can see the valve body. And install the piston and the spring. This one, the spring's going first. Piston goes in the bottom. There are 3 different styles of pistons for these. If you do have to replace it, make sure it's exactly the same. And then the forward piston in, accumulator piston in the pump, or in the valve body. Finish putting stuff together. In the valve body, we put our accumulator in, our valve, spring. We have our retaining plate, and And put the force motor on this side. Bracket and hold it in. Can't run these down by hand. A lot of people will be tempted to run these down with a gun. I wouldn't do that. I've seen a lot of these bolts break off extremely easy. They are thin. And it's hard to get bolts, broken bolts out of the valve or out of the valve body sometimes. Sometimes they're easy to get, sometimes they're hard. You don't need the headache. Again, do everything by hand. Check your torque specifications. Adjust your wrench and torque these to specs. You'll have to look up specs for your specific transmission. All right, that's done. We'll put the wiring in, install the new O-ring. If you do break your retaining clips when you take this apart, they do make a little bracket that'll hold it down so you don't have to replace the whole wiring thing. But if you're careful, you shouldn't ever have to do that. Put a little bit of lube on that, put it in. All right. In the end of here, there is a filter. Goes right in the end of your solenoid. And find my pliers. Get your pliers, twist that into place. Then put the O-ring on the outside. And again, just a little bit of lube. You don't need a lot. Now, I have alignment pins. The spacer plate and the valve body gaskets have smaller holes for alignment to help line it up. We want to put our one check ball that goes here. There's an encapsulated check ball here, and there's another one way down inside the case right there. Make sure those check balls are all in there. Install that. Now, on your spacer plate, you'll need to put, one's a force motor filter and one's the shift solenoid filter. And you install them because they fit down inside the case. One there and one there. All right, now install your top gasket, accumulator, and the bolt. Plate and your 3 small 8mm head bolts. Same thing on this. Don't use a gun. Take these down. Make sure your plate's straight as it can go. Again, check your specifications for your transmission. Most of these are pretty much the same. 11 Newton meters, which is about 110 inch-pounds. Which is right there, and tighten these to specs. Now I'm going to leave this on because it's the same thing for the valve body. Same specs and everything for the valve body, so we're going to leave that on. I'm not going to take the tension off my torque wrench. Okay. Manual valve linkage. Manual valves in. And there is 7 check balls you need to put in here. You will have to, you need to look them up online, on a computer, whatever you need to do. And I'm missing a check ball. Wow. Alright, I lost a check ball. Good enough. Check ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 check balls. Okay. Carefully put this on. You don't want to move them around much because you don't want the check balls to roll. Install your linkage. And put your valve body down. Now you want to start all your bolts. What I do is I put one in the center, then I take out my guiding pin bolts, or guiding bolts. And replace these first. This one up here has your manifold pressure switch on it, goes through that, so you want your longer bolt there. Now, after you get that done, just install all your bolts. If you're not familiar with these, and you put the wrong bolts in the wrong spot, you will put a bolt into something and your transmission will not work. There are 3 bolts that are longer. They have 8mm head bolts, or 8mm head top, and they go 1, 2, 3. If you end up putting this one here, it goes into the sun shell and it will not allow it to work. No forward, no reverse, it just binds up. And put all your bolts in. Now there is a pattern to this also. We're going to show you the pattern, and you run it down with your hand wrench first. You want to start from the center and work your way out in a spiral pattern to properly seat the valve body. Spin by itself. A lot of you people are using electric screwdrivers. You're thinking, oh, the electric screwdriver is not that powerful. Electric screwdrivers are extremely powerful, and I've seen people break bolts off using those. So don't think that electric screwdriver is going to be weaker and not be able to do this right, or it's going to be able to put the bolts down right, because it will not. So again, after you've got these all the way down, do the same pattern and torque them to specs. And if you want to, go around and double check to make sure that they're done, but they usually are. So I'm going to take the tension off my torque wrench, leave tension on it. It's going to take your calibration off, so it won't be good. So always take the tension off your torque wrench. I'm missing that spring. All right, what we do is put the other two solenoids in. Remember, there was a spring and a valve under this one. Put the spring in, the valve, make sure you get it in. Replace the O-rings on here, which I haven't done yet. There's a large one and a small one on each. Again, just a little bit of lube on the O-rings. You don't need a ton. These fit in, they're different solenoids, so they're different plugs, so they need to be in the right side. What we'll do is we'll put this one in. Okay, and before we put this one in, we need to install the solenoid so we can get to the bolts. Again, put it in. Start your two little 10mm bolts. And just make these nice and tight, like so. Now that's in, I can put the solenoid in and retaining clip, set my wiring down, and then make sure I plug everything in. I always double check to make sure that I got everything plugged in. It's not very good after you install the transmission not have it work because you forgot to plug these in. So double check everything's in down right. Install this. Okay, put this down nice and tight. All right. Filter. Pan gasket. Make sure you always get the right filter. There's deep, like this one is, and there's also shallow. This is a deep pan. If it was a shallow pan, it wouldn't have this bump. It would be that deep all the way across. So this is a deep pan, clean. All the bolts on. Again, torque these to specs. look up your specs for your pan tightening. And again, torque these to specs. Do not over tighten. You will warp the pan and cause it to leak. If you properly do this, these things do not leak. The only reason these things do leak is somebody's over tightened the pan. All right, done with that. All right, but we'll take this up now. I'll install my bell housing. Make sure all the bolts are started by hand. And again, this is about the only other thing you can use your gun on, and tighten these in a star-shaped pattern. And there you go. Hope you learned something on how to build a transmission that's ready to be put in now. Always replace the torque converter. Put your new seals on for your lines. There's seals and clips that come in the kit. Make sure you put those in. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.